Hello YouTube, and welcome back to the TheXezuSeries explanation in a clusterfucker. So, we were last talking about the colonies and Exul's melee skills. We were talking about how he leaves the foot up the ass to make major injury. Oh my god, this is so stupid. But I'm so bored. I have no other better way to explaining this and to enjoy it at the same time than to make it a little bit more fun. So, without further ado, explanation 4 of the colonies, or whatever. I don't care about the title right now. So, you have these enemies which sometimes have plots to their role. You think they're supposed to be trying to do all these things to fucking terrorize the world, when actually it's a plot to distract them from something, or it's a plot to actually stall so they can do something else. So it's weird. But and overall, well, here's the first terrorist of the series, because there was two forms of it. Well, actually, no, because the main actual terrorist leader had another organization that worked for them, which were pretty much after the same thing. And he hired dumb people to be like the decoy. So there's this other large terrorist organization working for an even larger terrorist organization. So the first terrorist organization, which were the main enemies for the first Colonies series, I forgot the dude's name, the leader of the terrorist name for that Pacific group. He was strong as fuck. Actually, as strong as the commander, and the commander is really strong. And to their surprise, that's the commander's brother that they're fucking fighting. So, and you know the commander built and made the construction for the whole colonies. So you know with their advanced technology, if that's his brother has somewhat of the same technology. So, and the commander made Zanti Zegeza. And if you were listening in part one, you know how strong Zanti is. And there was a full series about Zanti and how badass he was. So now you have this enemy that is pretty much as strong as their commander. And whew, he has his own personal reasons for helping that terrorist organization, because I think he was jealous of his brother. So he wanted to do everything to crush his brother's dreams and destroy the colonies. So you have the commander, which has a brother who hates him, kind of, who's just a hater. so he's so his brother is working for this terrorist organization to help destroy the colonies. So, and plus the colonies is like well known because they always interfere with other people's planets. It's kind of like how, well, I'm not going to use that as a reference, but you know how it is when you have other militaries interfering with other continents and other states. This is kind of similar to it. So now you have kind of a universal war going on and shit. And then you have these organizations grouping together to help fight, um, fight because they don't like this shit, or they don't like how they're doing and running things. So with that said, right there, you can tell that there was a lot of battles, lots of wars in this colony series. But overall, you had overall the main battle and the main war was basically between the commander's military and his brother's military. So woohoo! Big battle scene there. And of course, it wasn't all quick where it was like, oh, I'm the commander's brother, and I'm trying to kill you guys. No, it took them a while to figure out who was actually the enemy and who was leading them and all this shit. So it was it was a really good story, but it was like long drawn out. So you had this Azul character. He worked for the commander and he helped fight for enemies, and he as he fight for enemies he gets stronger himself, learn a new power, and like I said in other story, he has abilities that he discovers and unlocks as he gets stronger. So he gets a very powerful and he has weird powers that I did not explain yet because I still yet to explain all of his powers and shit. So while I'm explaining one story, I have to explain another. So you know how this shit is. It takes a long time to talk about everything, every last detail, because of this story is so long that you have to cluster fuck it for a person to understand. It's a crazy one. So you have Zoe, he gets stronger, and now he starts to use a Sadori Shangra because he realized enemies get too strong for melee and too strong for sword. So he uses his ancient power, the Shangra arts. Did I just say Shadori Shangra? What the hell? But he uses his Shangra, ancient power only he can master, and he uses it to beat the ass once again. So like I think there was like this one part where he was really getting his ass kicked and he almost fucking died, and then his team was already fucking they already got their ass whooped. So now all three of them had their ass whooped, and Exil all of a sudden I know was like, oh yeah, it's time to fucking kick some ass because I still got more left. And he just got up, and then his right arm, which is where he summons all the energy for his Changra. It just suddenly just burst with energy, and you thought like, oh shit, here he comes, and a kaboom. So he basically would like overpower his enemy with amazing power and beat his ass. It was like so awesome, and it kind of looped as between those plots. It looped like that between stories for a while until finally it got to the end where, oh shit, this is my brother. Now I'm gonna have to fucking face you face to face and really beat your ass. Cause you put us through this shit and we all pissed off and we are gonna beat your ass so bad. So, in the final episode between the commander versus his brother, the commander's military, and then his military went out into the total war between each other. So you got his colonies, and to their surprise, they had their own colonies too. And they had war with each other. You had the colonies firing Eclipse Canyon at his colonies, and then you had his colonies firing Eclipse Canyon at their colonies. You had their soldiers fighting their soldiers. You had his soldiers fighting their soldiers. You had ships. You had fleets. You had fucking everything. And overall, you had what's it called? You had Unhumans, uh, Exor, Mana, and Hentaji, and a couple other people of his colonies, and then you had the commander's brother had a few powerful people that was kind of unhuman, and then they fought each other. uh, and then you had the soldiers versus the soldiers, and I think I said that already. So yeah, you had a whole out war, and then I think you had the commander versus his brother at the same time too. But basically, the commander was controlling the colonies and firing the canyon, so I'm pretty sure they didn't literally fight each other. They only fought each other in fucking machines and shit. It was fucking. It was hilarious. So it was a good story, but that didn't end the colony story because, like I said, they were hired by the terrorist organization to work for them. So we need to find out who these terrorist organization people or leaders are. and that became another series after that series. So now you can see why this Colonies series is like huge. A never ending story it almost became. And to be honest, I think the Colonies series was most of the story and most of the action because and now series there's not really too much about the Colonies anymore. It's more about Exile. So, but it's a good story because you do find out about Exile's past, which I made in this current series. But I'll talk more about that when I actually explain everything else. So, wah. Too bad, guys. So in this other story, which Exo has, which they're investigating and trying to find leads to find this new the main leaders of, you know, fucking crisis center. um, there's this new group that's hired by the main leaders, and Exo gets involved in that and all this stuff. And this is around the time where Azul gets his dark side. Not XI or Ica, his own personal dark side. Because like I said, Exul wasn't never really human and he never really did know about himself. So eventually his powers started to unlock and he started figuring out more stuff about himself. So at some parts of the series, he did become evil and he did try to destroy the colonies. But like I said, I've written about it a few times, but I really didn't explain a lot in detail. So, if you guys want to know about that story, then huh, who knows when the day is that going to come when I actually write about it. But yeah, that gets interesting. Let's see what else happens. He meets this girl, which is similar to Exul because Exul becomes really strong, like almost godlike strong. But he meets this girl that's similar in strength, and her name is Fika, which is believed to be Exul's sister. Because, for all we know, Exul does not have any relatives at all. We know that he was from some other world that probably got destroyed. We don't know all the facts and details. So, at this point of the story, he meets this girl called Fika, and whenever they fight, the universe almost gets destroyed. And that was like a comedy thing there in the story, too. There was a couple of Ichi scenes, and that was um that was the main comedy. Well, not really the main, but a lot of the comedy plots really went into play where you had sex scenes and stuff. Either if it was between him and Mana or him and Fika, it was just funny. Let's just say, how can I phrase this? That's kind of like Naruto in its full form versus Sakura with all her strength trying to have the world's best sex. So you can imagine what destruction that caused and how that was used in comedy as well. So, with that said, let's just say that the Colonies season 2 was one of the best of all the Colonies series because at the end, the terrorist leader had a daughter, and Exol had to kill the terrorist leader in order to save the universe or the world. But so, like, he used his one final attack, which was some a similar. He got this power with the Shangri that was like really strong, and it was his last and final attack. It was either miss and all is lost, or fucking hit him and save, you know, universe and all this shit. So it came down between that, and he had to kill him. Whew. Um, his colony, the terrorist leader's colony. Well, I wouldn't even call it a colony because it was much bigger than that. it was like fucking huge. It was about as big as the sun. No, not the sun. That's a little bit too big. It was big as a fucking few planets put together. That's how big their base was. And that compared to the colony, that's like putting that's like putting a marble on the floor and comparing the how big there are, how big the ground is versus the marble. So the colonies is tiny, so yeah. But that final attack that Exil used destroyed him and it struck their colony. So that big ass base that they had also blew up to tiny pieces and fell to Earth. Luckily, most of it blew up before it hit the planet. And then the commander's colony went down as well. Exul, he used so much energy, he could even fucking keep himself floating in space. He just fell to Earth instantly. And as for the terrorist leader's daughter, oh, traumatic experience for her. But she was caught in an explosion and she fell to Earth too. So now you have all this debris and all shit falling to Earth. Exil landed in the ocean and he's just floating in the ocean and whatnot. But to his surprise, Exil didn't know that the terrorist leader had a daughter at the time. But his daughter was fucking watching the whole fucking battle. So she drawn out so much emotion that she actually formed a Shangri. So now she's like the second person in the whole entire series to fucking have an original Shangri. And Exul, as he's laying in the water, notices and tries to get up. But she's already about to like fucking kick his ass. Exul has no energy, no strength. And tell me how he's able to stand in the water still and block her attack and knock her off balance and throw her to the other side of the water when clearly he just got done with the biggest battle of his life. So that just shows you how overpowered Exil is. And oh my god, I've been talking for like 17, oh crap, 17 minutes. So I'm gonna end what I'm saying here and get back to this in another video. Bye.